So yeah, if you have any other doubts, you can always ask me or anyone. So this is a general walkthrough of the SD thing. And now is the time, the ball is in your court to ask me the doubts you have, something to ask. Any general thing you can also ask me.
Anyone who has doubts can raise their hand, so I will unmute one by one.
1 second, I'm not able to hear.
Others, you can unmute and ask your doubt.
Yeah.
Hello, Bhaiya, am I audible to you? Hello.
Others, you are audible,
Hello.
but with Sanskar Bhaiya has some network issues, so wait for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just go on the previous slide? Before that, before this. Yeah. Bhaiya, can you just repeat the last point on this slide?
Yeah, so for example, like if you have written the some exact solution you remembered, you can add a garbage function like to add or subtract few numbers, but you don't use it. So that it might be helpful to prevent plagiarism.
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any other question? Or...
Bhaiya, I have another doubt as well, and other people also have the same doubt. How can
Yeah.
we make the list of companies that we should fill?
So like you might have a rough idea of the companies that came last year. So you can divide the list in three parts, like some of the dream companies you can keep, some of the companies that you know that you can get the offer, and you have to keep the companies as a some companies as a backup as well. So roughly you can divide the companies in these three categories and make a list.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there is a
Anjum, you can unmute and ask your doubt.
yeah, you don't have to raise the hand, you just unmute and ask.
And yeah, where can we get the information?
Where can we?
Get the information about these companies. I mean,
I
who
don't
came
know like
and
the exact list you won't get, but you can ask some of the seniors for the companies that come, or you can ask the placement coordinator for the list. But what I did, like I remembered some of the companies that came and I make a list, and as the companies keep coming, I updated the list.
you made the list a year before or the same year the placement was.
No, no, I made the list during my placement journey only. Like you can make a list for the companies that you want to target, because you can't just focus on all the companies. No, so the point was that only.
Hello, Bhaiya.
Hello.
Yeah, like what about the projects?
So like during the intern season, you have completed some of the projects, so I think that will be good enough for the placements.
Like what do they ask about the projects? Those type of tips like that.
Yeah, during my interviews, they haven't really asked anything related to the projects, but like if you have written some of the projects in your CV, they generally ask you to pick up one of them and explain like why you did the project and what are the different tech stack and why you chose the particular tech stack compared to others. So might be familiar with all the basic questions they ask. Like these are some of the questions they ask related to the project. And if you are making some clone, so they can ask like what different thing you have done. So that type of question you can prepare. Are there more doubts?
I think there are no more doubts.
Oh,
So
cool.
thank you, Sanskarbhya, for joining us and providing the insights.
Good luck.
Now we will
I hope everyone will get placed in good companies. So, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I forgot to ask, where can we access these slides?
I think Cepstrum will provide you the link to the slides in the mail.
Okay,
yeah, we will mail the slides.
Yeah.
okay.
Good luck to everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Sanskarbhya. Now we will going on to the data science role. Amish Bhaiya.
Hello, am
Yeah, Amish, over to you.
I audible?
Yeah,
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So I recently graduated from IIT Guwahati from EC branch, and I had a computer science minor, and I did my internship at Decimal Point Analytics as a data scientist only. It was a remote internship, and sat in the placements and got selected in Zipto as a data scientist. So next slide. So in data science, mainly uh, the tests include there are like mainly two types of tests. So one is full MCQ, and like for some companies like InfoEdge and Ola, they only ask MCQs, and some companies include MCQs and one or two coding questions. So coding questions can be of two type. They can be either based on data science only, like including pandas or some data processing, or they can be SD simple DSA questions. So in MCQs, the major topics which they focus on include like the ones which are mentioned here mainly: probability statistics, inferential statistics, machine learning basics, deep learning, and unsupervised. Like these are very specific topics, but mostly they'll try to test your understanding of the concepts. So most questions might be straightforward. If you know the answer, you'll get it right if you know the concept, but sometimes they try to test the understanding and change the data, and you'll have to be fast in calculation sometimes. So they give data in table format, and then they'll ask to calculate certain statistics and all. So in one of the companies, I remember there were a lot of questions similar to this, so there can be a time management issues there. So you can practice these questions online on any website, so that's okay. And in Python coding, so as I mentioned that they ask pandas. So in one of the companies, they provided a data set, and they had given a notebook which with some questions based on the data set. So they had asked you to find certain statistical measures. They asked you to compare certain values and draw a graph, and finally give the answer of the using the graph. And also, apart from this, in I think Microsoft didn't come for data science this time, but I think in intern season and in the past when they have come, they asked question on sklearn coding question. So something like ask you to they give a data set and they ask you to implement certain ML algorithm using sklearn, and yeah, they give the output. So that's just library utilization, that very basic. If you have done some projects on ML or done any course, you'll know how to do that. And also SQL. So for SQL, I mostly followed lead code. So I think some of you might have studied it in 12th, or if you haven't studied, you can just watch a video on SQL. So the type of questions which they ask are not very tough. They are mostly basic table joins and certain uh, statistical value you have to measure. So you can practice lead code questions, simple lead code questions, and also watch any video of SQL. That will be enough. So in interviews, they mostly don't ask SQL. It's only in tests. And yeah, so and DSA questions. For DSA, I would suggest you cover all the topics till graphs at least. So like all the standard questions, at least you have to cover. Standard, by that standard I mean like for a certain playlist like of Striver or Aditya Verma for DP, and the questions which they have covered in their playlist, you that's the least you have to do. And apart from that, personally, I did interview bit and lead code medium questions for practice. So in the data science, in tests, they don't ask very tough questions. So they expect you to have certain problem solving abilities. So they they won't ask very tough questions. So standard questions of all the topics which are in the playlist, and um, for practice, you can go till lead code medium only. Lead code, yeah, mainly I did lead code medium, and for lead code hard, the ones which are standard only, that is enough. So you don't need to practice a lot of lead code hard questions for this. Um, Next slide. So for data science, major topics which are mentioned here for maths and statistics. So one second, you can go to the next slide once. So in data science, the major topics include so apart from machine learning and deep learning, so probability, statistics, linear algebra. These three are very standard. You can study it from any good resource. So for stats, as it is mentioned, stats 110 course is available on YouTube. Full all the videos are available. You can watch them, and if uh, you are lazy in watching videos, so you can also find notes on GitHub for this course. It's very famous course, so you'll get good resources for it. And 50 challenging problems. Personally, I didn't do it, but you can if you have time. So in data science, core data science role, they mostly don't very tough questions in probability also. So probability, very standard stuff. I think in EC and Triple you had probability course. So most of the topics in that were like it had covered most of the topics that you will require. So for probability also, there's a website called probabilitycourse.com. I'll put it in chat. You can follow it, and it's mostly standard stuff in probability like distributions, Bayes theorem, and the means and the statistics values of different distributions. So Poisson, Bernoulli, binomial, and in statistics you have topics like t-test and like the standard statistics. I think majority of you will know how to find mean, median, mode and stuff, but other than that, the in inferential statistics, the tests, different tests which are there, ANOVA test, t-test, chi-square test, you can you'll have to study those because they ask in tests. So those are important. And in linear algebra, so Gilbert Strang course is like very good course. You can follow it. It has a lot of topics, but if you have time, you can cover the whole course. But if you just want to do the selective topics, so Once again, you can search online. There's a course of Stanford on machine learning, CS 229. I'll mention it in chat. So that has a PDF on linear algebra and probability both, which includes the selective topics required for machine learning. So in that, the topics which I mentioned, that is enough for most of the stuff. So I personally read that and watched some videos of Gilbert Strand. Also, three blue, one brown also is good. You can just these very few videos. I think you can watch those also for better understanding. And for ML and DL basics, so machine learning basics, so like some of you might have done some analytics or the course from .ai or the course on Coursera. So any three of them. Mostly Coursera course is very good machine learning specialization. It has three sub courses, and you can cover the. You'll find notes online to brush it up, revise it, and for machine learning, all the algorithms, the basic algorithms like KNN, K-means, linear, logistic, everything should be clear to you, like the mathematical concepts behind it, when they are used, what are the assumptions that are used in each algorithm, what kind of data they are suitable for. So you can just make a list of all the machine learning algorithms from any course and just try to try to keep track what all you understand, what all you have completed. So you can follow any resource. The main target is to understand the concept behind it, why is it used, how it is used, and what kind of assumptions are there in each of the algorithms. So for the topics, you can find it on any like I mentioned the Stanford course. They also have notes of machine learning in which they have mentioned the topics. So in Stanford course, you might not need to like study everything in that. Only the standard topics um, which might be covered in the Coursera or Summer Analytics. You can study the mathematical concepts from that. And for deep learning, you have Coursera course deep learning specialization. That is like the starter. Like you have to complete it for core data science role. That is very much required. So all the basics which are covered, you'll find notes very easily for it. You can revise through notes. They are available on GitHub and other websites also. Uh, that is like for majority part that will be enough. But what happens is if you have mentioned a project which is based on computer vision specifically or NLP, so they might go into deep. So you don't need to know everything for both the domains, CV or NLP. Pick one, whichever you are comfortable in, whichever project you have mentioned. You can, yeah. So whatever you have mentioned in the project, specifically related to that, you have to know everything. They can ask anything in cross questioning. So like they'll ask to explain your project, and they can dig deep into any topic. And similarly in tests, so in tests, the basics which are asked are pretty standard. So they test basically your understanding of why is it used uh, in the, like, so for example batch normalization, why is it used, what are the effects. So they can ask in MCQ, and there'll be trivia questions, like if you know the answer you'll get it right. MCQs aren't tough for ML and DL, very standard questions. So MCQs won't be an issue most if you have studied the concepts well. And for puzzles, personally I studied puzzles a little bit, but uh, as far as I remember, in data science interviews, they didn't ask much puzzles. Like they'll ask maybe probability puzzle, which you'll be able to solve. Like they aren't very tough, and you can study GFG puzzles, like if you're preparing for other domains also, but that is not compulsory. So you can, if you have time, you can go through it. Yeah, next slide. So in interviews, so yeah, there are mainly three types of interviews. First is technical or CV based. Uh, in technical interview, like as the name suggests, like they will first, they might start, mostly they will start with your resume. They'll see what internship you've done or what all projects you mentioned. They don't really care about exactly how unique it is, but they want to know like how well you can explain it. So like, did you really work on it or not? So they can ask very deep questions on it. So for example, in my internship, I mentioned certain data set name and the kind of data set. So they asked me about what kind of data pre-processing that you did, and like why did you do that, and each and every reasoning they might ask. So whatever you have mentioned in your CV, you have to thoroughly know it. Uh, all the topics, all the keywords that you mentioned, keep like, you can mention it smartly. So if something you don't really know, or it might get broader, you can rephrase your project which you have mentioned in your CV smartly. So just keep that in mind. And in technical, apart from CV, they can ask ML basics, like I mentioned, all the algorithms. Like they can ask any one of the algorithms, KNN, k-means, linear regression, and they'll ask about the assumptions. They'll mostly start with basic. They won't ask very hi-fi like transformers, or transformers only if you have mentioned in resume. But from themselves, they won't ask very hi-fi questions. They'll start with the basics. If you are able to answer them, that's very good. They don't expect you to know everything about really high-tech or latest technologies. If you know, that's very well, but that is not necessary. And yeah, so in technical interview, that is the main focus. And second is case study type interview. So for me in Zepto, they had one interview round in which he asked about recommendation systems. So he just gave me a case study. For example, if you have an OTT platform, you have to build a recommendation system for a new user. So it might be the case that you don't know about that domain, but they are not looking for technical answers. They want the logical solutions, like your thought process. It will be a kind of discussion. It won't be like interrogative. So they'll help you. They'll give you ideas. You also give your ideas and figure out what is the best way to solve that case study. So for these kind of interviews, you can study some case studies online. Like there are YouTube videos or sample case studies of any company. Like you'll have an idea of how to approach it. There's not very a specific way to prepare for this. Like it's mostly based on the interviewer itself. So you just have to be present there. Like think logically and try to come up with the like, don't feel that you have to get the perfect solution first time. You can try whatever thoughts you're coming, communicate with the interviewer well, so he will also help you in the interview. So you can study on some sample case studies, like for Uber and for other like dating apps like Hinge. All there are some case studies online, so you can study how machine learning systems are designed, how is data accessed, what all data you'll need, how you'll use that data. That's the important part. Modeling is not that very the I think the most important part, but data acquisition, how you'll use the data, what is the significance. So that is very important in these kind of individuals. Sorry. Okay. So in the last round, HR round, so it's very standard, nothing different in data science. You can prepare certain standard questions on uh, like about, they'll ask about your family background, and very standard interview. That there is nothing very specific in data science that they'll ask about. Just prepare some standard answers for your strengths, weaknesses, and certain, like maybe they ask your previous experience. You might have shown some quality, so you can just prepare them beforehand. Yeah, next slide. So I think I covered technical interview, case study interview, HR interview. Okay. So any more questions you have, you can ask. Also for data science, so in the companies, most of the like, you might have heard that in our time there were a lot of data science companies this time, but major the major companies, like the ones which are coming from like from past 2 3 years, they were the mostly they were same. The new companies which were there were mostly startups. So you try to focus on, like, you'll get ample opportunities for data science, I hope, this year also. So you can fill companies of SD also. So you won't have, so there's a limit in number of companies, right? So in data science, there aren't a lot of companies like SD. So you'll have a certain you buffer to sit for SD companies also. But in SD also you pick smartly. So you'll don't have to, you won't exhaust yourself. There will be a lot of tests. So you can sit for SD also. So you'll be preparing DSA anyway. So that will be helpful. And in data science, I think yeah, interviews happen similar to in December only, like SD. And yeah. Any other questions you have? Hello. You can ask any questions if you have any doubts. So you can reach me or any of the seniors which are in data science. And also for projects, you can like if you're not even in any club, you can just reach out to people who are in CNA or .ai and look at their projects, so that you can, if you want to make a project. I don't think currently you will have time, but if you want to add a project, you can look at those projects to get some idea. If you have any questions, you can ask in chat or unmute and ask.
Hello, Priya.
Hello.
How did you understand, try to balance out the list of SD companies and data science companies?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Like you told कि data science related companies के साथ you can also add SD related companies because. So how did you know like what companies we can take into consideration and all?
So mostly like for SD, there is a lot of competition. Like almost everybody is preparing for SD. So you can see like if it's a very famous company, like if the test is very tough, like for example, MediaNet and companies like which prefer SD only, you can avoid that. Like they won't go for DS candidates at all. So you'll get an idea of it while when the company will release their qualifications and preferences. So for companies like which have a data science field also in their company, but they haven't come on campus for it. So for example, Databricks, I think Databricks is a bad example, but like for example, Microsoft, so they have a data science role, but they didn't come on campus. They came for SD only. So if you are interested in that company specifically, you can apply for SD also. And similarly, like mostly that's the theory I followed, that if I want to go into the company in their data science department and they haven't come for data science, I applied for SD also. And in some companies, if you feel that there isn't a lot of competition or the test is very not that tough, you can clear it, so you can apply in those too. But yeah, in those which there is a lot of competition or the tests are very tough, you can avoid those. So there's a question in chat. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
How much competition we will get from SD people, since IDC won't be that strong, and they will also participate. So that is true that people from SD also sit for data science companies, but like you can't do anything about it. Most of the good SD people will mostly won't sit, which are sure to go into SD, like they are confident in their preparation, they'll only sit for SD. uh, and they will be out in maybe day zero, day one. And for data science, like in data science they have MCQs on uh, ML and topics related to data science also. So like if they have studied like you can't do anything about it. But if they haven't studied for data science and they're just applying to increase their chances, they might not clear the test if they haven't prepared well. They will only be able to do the DSC question, but other than that, the MCQs and all, they might not be able to. But mostly you can't do anything about there are very few people who'll sit for both. So like in maybe in later stages like day 2 or 1.3, there might be people sitting for all companies because there will be less opportunities, but mostly in day 1 it won't happen. This won't be a problem. uh, There's one more question. So I didn't apply off campus in seventh semester because like what happened, I wasn't prepared with DSA when I entered my seventh semester. So most of the time I was preparing DSA only in the first few months of the seventh semester. I wasn't focused on off campus that much, and during that time, so in private, you might know that in private colleges and NITs, the placement happened in the start of the seventh semester itself. So most of the companies are busy hiring in those colleges during that time. So I don't think during that time there are a lot of off-campus opportunities. If you have certain contact through senior or uh, like if you are doing some remote internship and you had some contact or research internship, then it's okay. But mainly you focus on placements only, because during that time you won't have much opportunities for off campus. It will mostly happen in eighth semester only. So yeah, and off campus, yeah, as Sanskar mentioned, that it's very tough. Like there will be a lot of applications. You'll have to stand out. So if you have a very good CV, then it's you can try, but most of the times it's not the case. So quality problems on probability. So quality problems, like in what kind of problems are you looking for? I mean, for data science, uh, the standard probability based theorem and distribution, and like for example, if they can ask certain they'll give you an event. They'll ask that how will you model this distribution. So for example, the car traffic, in the amount of the car incoming on a road can be modeled as a Poisson distribution. So it's a independent event, and like they can give certain situation and ask you what kind of distribution does it fit. And other than that, for probability, they might ask some combinatorial questions, like from 12th standard in JE, you had probability, right? So some standard questions from that also they can ask. So that's very easy. You can just, I don't think there's any preparation specifically for that, but you had probability course in EC triple E, so that you can follow that also. Uh, how much DPN graph is sufficient for data science? Medium level, like follow the. I followed for graph. I followed Stiver's playlist. I watched all the videos. I think I just left the last one or two videos. Maybe you can watch that also. The standard questions of all, and from lead code you can practice medium for graph. So don't stress if you don't get a question that's tough in on lead code. Just try for some time, look for the solution. If it's standard and like if you are able to understand, then good. But and also like during placements, you'll get previous year questions from some WhatsApp groups also. So you can have a look at you'll look at them and you'll have an idea of what the level is. So that won't be an issue that time. So standard question is enough. Um, And if the JD of company consider topics which aren't there in my CV, for example, if it is NLP based, but I've majorly worked in computer vision, will they still ask NLP based questions in interview? Yes, they can ask NLP based if they have mentioned it in their preference, because like ultimately they want someone who can work on their problem statement. So they will ask definitely. So just first look at the preferences or requirements they have mentioned once, and you can prepare those like just revise those topics before the interview or for the test. So like that is very possible. They might also ask computer vision, like whatever you mentioned in CV, but they can ask whatever their company requirements are. uh, for DSA right now, do you recommend doing interview to follow a DSA sheet satisfies the any other questions if you have, or any doubts for data science?
Do you recommend doing Striver SD sheet?
mm, Striver SD sheet, oh so, you can follow that, that's okay. Like it has standard questions. I also followed a little bit of that sheet, but mainly I did lead code medium only. I just picked the topic and solved lead code medium questions for that uh, each topic. You can also follow Striver DSA sheet if you are not comfortable doing this lead code mediums separately. So yeah, you can follow any SD sheet. The first goal is to cover all the topics, all the basics at least. Like you know the standard questions, you know the standard concepts. For that, you can follow SD sheet, any YouTube playlist. That's the first step. That's their minimum you can do, and after that, you can maybe move on to lead code mediums. Any other questions?
I think there are no more questions. Uh, so thank you, Amish Bhai, for joining us and providing us the valuable insights.
Yeah. All the best, everyone. Thank you.
Now we have Vamsi Bhaiya for core, and after the core, we have the product speaker as well. So first, we will begin with the core speaker. Vamsi Bhaiya, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, over to you.
Can I?
Yeah, you can start.
Hi everyone. I hope you know me. I'm Sai Vamsi from EC branch. I have worked at Texas Instruments in last year for my internship, and then in placement I have got selected for Micron Technology. Today I would be giving some insights about how the electrical course companies comes and what are the things they are going to cover in their tests and interviews. And before I start, I would like to mention this very strongly. Because of the boom in a semiconductor industry, there is high chance of opportunities in core this time. So be confident and motivated. Okay, let's start. Next slide. Yeah. Coming to this, the companies which have visited last year has increased a lot when compared to previous years. The companies
वो
which
खत्म
I
हो गया
bolded. Hello?
डेटा साइंस खत्म तूने सुना क्या ध्यान से डेटा साइंस तूने सुना ध्यान से
Yes, can you be silent? Here, the companies which got bolded actually hires many people every year, and the companies which are like normal, they have came last year. And I have also mentioned the cutoffs. You can clearly see the least cutoff which was there is actually 6. If you have some, like, if there is some cutoff, the least is 6. So the companies which don't have any cutoffs also hires people well. So don't be disappointed about the CPI cutoff. There is high chance of getting placed. And and Micron has come last time only. I don't think it came in the previous years. So it's like one of the new opportunities. And Micron is also going to hire many people as far as I got the information. Okay, next slide. So here, if you have observed carefully, there are some companies like Inito, HQ, etc., which haven't hired from BTech. And coming to C dot, it's a company which opens for both CSC and ECE. Last year, they have closed it for ECE, but generally they'll come for both branches. And Intel, due to less positions available, last time they shortlisted only MTech, but generally Intel also hires BTech people. Geo is one of the most expected company which backed out last year, but this year they are saying there might be chances. And coming to BPCL, there is a small sorry, there is a small wrong happened in last year's placement. They have came for electronics and instrumentation branch, which is not available in our campus. But generally, BPCL also hires from EC and Triple. Can we go to next slide? Hello. Yeah. Please pay attention. This is one of the important slides. I have listed out all the topics and mentioned which are the important parts of each topic. The yellow ones are like must and should topics to be prepared, and the blue ones refer you can just refer once so that if some question comes you can solve them, and the green ones will be company specific. It may not come in every company. Coming to digital electronics, as far as everyone knows in core, digital electronics is mostly covered in all company exams, and also most companies come to hire digital design people. The best resource for digital is always Morris Manor, as we all know, and you have to cover all 1 to 7 chapters. Make sure you practice each and every Verilog assignments well. Make sure you're thorough with FSM, etc. topics. The HDL topic and the chapters after HDL are actually most important for tests and also for project-based questions. Coming to STA, this is not covered in our in our curriculum. So I strongly suggest you to go through SJN YouTube channel playlist. He has covered STA very finely within just 7 videos, which are like only 5 minutes each. Maybe you need 1 hour at max. So if you cover it, I hope you will be able to solve almost all the STA problems. STA means static timing analysis. And synchronizers, FIFO, are some topics which you will find only in different exam based questions. So go through gate level questions and also try to refer to previous year placement questions if possible, so that you can solve these questions easily. These questions will be repeated in many companies. Coming to CMOS concepts, this is basically important in case of interviews. If they want to ask you about complementary MOS operation, in that case, they are going to touch upon this. And the best resource is maybe EE210 course is also fine. If you want to refer to a book, go through Ravis Digital Integrated Circuits. Coming to HDL bits platform, like interview bit for SDE guys, HDL bits is very useful for digital problems. All standard problems which were covered in this platform will be useful for your project-based discussions in interview. So make sure to practice by making an account in HDL bits and cover all the questions as much as possible. And coming to circuit theory, the basic topics which are covered in our curriculum are enough. You need not go through high-level subject-related topics. Just go through the resonant circuits which are mostly prepared using L, C, and R, and also the Laplacian and Fourier transforms actually are useful whenever there is some frequency-based questions. Coming to two-port networks, this is one of the most important concepts which everyone might forget by this time. So please open E101 course and go through two-port networks. Just you have to be thorough with matrix-based calculations. If you are able to solve the matrix-based questions, most of the time will be saved. They are the time-taking questions. And coming to phasors, I hope your class 12 knowledge is sufficient. Just if you want, you can refer once. Next slide. Coming to analog circuits, E206, the analog circuits course. This is the only resource which I will suggest you in order to cover analog circuit concepts. If you are not able to understand the operation or something, then go through YouTube and how they works and how you have to calculate different things. make sure you come to know them. In EE 206, the most important topic is op-amps and diodes, whereas BJTs and MOSFETs might come or not. It was like only visible in maybe 2-3 companies in our case. But op-amps and diode questions were like regular in every coding, in every core OS. So make sure you prepare them well and be thorough with all the circuits, even though they give you names of like inverting amplifier, non-inverting amplifier, etc. You should be able to design, draw the circuit on your own. There are also some cases where they have kept subjective exams so that you have to draw and solve the question there itself. So for those cases, you should be thorough with op-amps and diodes. Coming to feedback circuits, in general, feedback circuits will be used for interlinked questions. Maybe they can interlink signals and systems and analog circuits, and they can ask. Otherwise, they can also interlink control systems, signals and systems. So the way they cover these are actually very important. And next, signals and systems. In signals and systems, the Fourier transforms concept which was taught is actually useful to solve circuit theory questions, analog circuits questions, and control systems questions as well. So make sure to go through all the properties and all the standard functions which are covered in EE 220. LTA system and properties may be asked. I am not sure about them in OA, but coming to interviews, if they want to ask you any question from signals and systems, the first topic they will be covering is LTA system. So you should be thorough with LTA system, and also make sure you be thorough with superposition principle, etc. Also. Coming to Laplace and jet transforms, it was moreover similar to the circuit theory concepts. So just go through jet transforms once. TTFT, TFT, FFT, these are generally useful for signal processing roles. So if you are aiming to go for signal processing, maybe Texas Instruments provides this role. So in that case, you can go through them. Embedded systems. I hope like you may get a smile when you listen to this course, because GT sir is one of the best professors everyone wants. So coming to GT sir slides, they are very informative, maybe not like lectures. So you can go through GT sir slides and cover 8085 microprocessor architecture. This is actually needed when it comes to some roles which needed programming. The embedded system engineer role, which was given by Texas and some other companies, maybe are very much important. So in that case, this architecture will help you solve both computer architecture questions as well. Next slide. And control systems is the one last topic which cover must and should. The most important topic of control systems is, as everyone knows, the stability theorems. They may ask you by using the route arrays, root locus, Nyquist plot, Bode plot, anything. They may give you one of, and there is a chance of asking whether the system is stable or not. So for this kind of questions, mostly they covered Bode plot, but there is some chance of Nyquist as well. Coming to root locus and route, I don't ask you to go through more, but they like just go through once so that you can work easily in Nyquist and Bode plot. Coming to transfer functions are actually you want to solve signals and systems questions as well. So if you cover the transfer functions concept well, you can solve like multiple topic questions, both signals and systems and control systems, etc. Coming to errors and superposition principle, as I mentioned in signals and systems also, these are generally asked whenever they want to twist you. In some cases, there might be a negative marking for some OS. In that case, the questions which are having velocity error, distance error, acceleration error, etc., those things will make you lose your marks. So once go through the concept and keep the idea in your tips. And y equals to mx plus c is one of the expected interview questions if you go for control system based roles. For example, Bajaj, Jaguar, etc., where the automobile is also involved, the control systems questions might come. So if you cover y equal to mx plus c affine linearity topic, it would be useful. I hope you know what is it. If you don't, just search for affine linearity concept. You will understand what is the reason y equal to mx plus c is affine linear. Next, PID control design. PID controller design is actually needed only in interviews. That too, if interviewer wants to ask, they know your knowledge in depth, then they will go to designs. So the topics which are mentioned after affine linearity, those three are like just for reference. If you want, you can try them. They won't be asked in OA. Semiconductor devices, as every one of us will forget the formulas by 7th sem, just open the course once, E203, and you can see the formulas which are used for calculation of current in case of linear, in case of saturation, in case of cutoff, etc. And also you need to be thorough with the graphs. They can ask you what is the relation between drain current and drain source voltage, and also gate source voltage. What is the operation of MOSFET? For these questions, these graphs are very important. If you are unable to explain the question, you can use graph so that you make interviewer feel that you know the concept. So this is like a jugad. You can expect that. And modulation index is asked only in CDMAC for us. It is not much needed. And coming to DSP, the questions which will come are just based on FIR and IIR mostly. They won't go to other concepts. And some exam which asks DSP is actually very rare. So this semiconductors and DSP are just for reference. Next slide. POC, the principles of communication, is actually needed only in case of signal related roles. They will ask you only how the signal would vary if you modulate on amplitude, if you modulate on frequency or phase. This is purely a signal based solving problem. They will give you a signal and ask what will it happen after modulation. This will not be much important concept, but just if you have time at the end, just go through. Even if you leave it, it's not much issue. So it's like basic reference topic. Coming to computer architecture, this is actually a company specific thing. The embedded systems role from TI, which might ask this. So for this case, I strongly suggest you cover all the concepts like pipelining, data hazards, catch concepts, etc. and cover computer architecture through some Udemy course or Bharatacharya lectures in YouTube. No need to go, just list out all the main concepts of computer architecture, go through each of them in different resources. Okay, this is how you can cover computer architecture. If you cover 8085 well, computer architecture will be a little easy, but this will have extra concepts like cache and pipelining. Make sure to cover this. Next. Yeah, this is one specific thing for electrical guys. The ECE guys won't have these courses, so they don't need to cover them. But for electrical guys, you will have power electronics and principles of electrical engineering in your third sem. So you should cover these topics if you want to get some triple based companies. In Bajaj, they have a triple based role, which actually have power electronics as the major thing. So make sure to cover them. Basic idea of programming and DSA is helpful. Why Bhaiya for a core role? Why will they ask DSA? This might be a question from anyone. This is actually needed for online assessments. And coming to some companies which are hybrid, like Micron, Texas, etc., there is high chance of asking a little basic TSA questions. Maybe some questions related to stacks and queues, arrays, etc. They won't go in depth for graph-based algorithms and all, but they will surely ask you at least 3 traverser questions, which happened to me in my Micron interview. Coming to aptitude, this is important for both core and SDE guys. Make sure to cover aptitude puzzles which are given in interview bit and IndiaBix. If you are doubtful about aptitude questions, if you are not doubtful, you can like just see for reference. Even skipping aptitude is fine if you're confident, but if you're not, don't skip aptitude. It will actually cost your applications. You may lose chances in many good companies just because of leaving aptitude. So aptitude makes important part. Go to next slide. Yeah, coming to tests, most of the core related exams will be MCQ based exams, and there are only 1 or 2 companies which ask for some subjective questions. So this subjective question is like they will give you a whiteboard where you have to draw and solve the question. But coming to MCQ based, they will ask you fill in the blanks and also option based questions. They mostly have a aptitude paper and a digital paper for sure. Coming to programming, they may have programming or embedded systems papers. It is completely role specific. And don't feel that analog questions might not come in digital. There is high chance of getting op-amps and also CMOS questions in digital exam as well. And most important thing in tests is what you have done during your JE time. You have to use time properly and be accurate. Choose the questions wisely. If there is a chance of going through all questions at once, I strongly suggest you go to the easiest questions and complete them as fast as possible, which will help you solve hard questions at the end and also gives you more time. Coming to interviews, along with the points mentioned here, I would like to add on some points. In interviews, there is high doubt in many BTech students that how we can compete with MTech guys. The interviews for MTech and BTech are completely different. If you are a BTech guy, the interview would go upon the basics of digital circuits, analog circuits, and role specific concepts. But for MTech guys, they would go a little deeper. So don't feel you may have to face competition from MTech. Their role is theirs and your role is yours. Always, most of the cases, MTech will be getting higher roles than BTech guys. So your interviews will be a little easier than them. And based on points mentioned here, you have to cover all the basics for sure. If you are not thorough with basics, the interview might not start well, which may make you lose confidence. So I strongly suggest you be thorough with basics. Even though you know one topic in depth and another topic to be zero, that is a hard case for you. So cover all the topics at least up to basics and then go for in depth if you have any preference. And your first round will most probably cover your resume. So whatever projects you mention in resume, if they feel they are related to their company or if they feel they are interested in that specific project, they will surely go through the project for first round. So make sure be thorough with each project details. Also, if you have some Verilog codes or all, you should be able to write the code at attention. They won't ask you the whole code, but they will ask you at least a module among your projects. For example, in micro project, they may ask you control unit module, arithmetic logic unit module, etc. And also, most basic tip of any interview is be confident and clear. If you struggle to give the perfect answer, give whatever you know without any hesitation. And coming to the interaction thing, there might be some hints which were given by the interviewer. You should be able to catch them and construct answer based on them. Okay. Next step. Yeah. Company based interview tips, which are like for TI, the questions which are covered are mostly based on the Verilog. They will ask you Verilog in depth. They might tell you some points and they will surely test how can you write Verilog code for those things. There might be some tricky also. And all the projects were covered in depth in TI interviews. They will start from the basic scratch point and go up to the end of the project. So be thorough with projects. And there are some instances where they have also asked puzzles in TI interviews. So I suggest you go through puzzle solvings so that you don't face any problem. And coming to Micron, Micron is a company which prepares memories. So the questions which they ask will be surely covering the memory based projects. If you have some projects like microprocessor, which includes memory, They will surely go through that project, and your interview first round would go only on my memory, scenario analysis, and some digital concepts. Coming to Bajaj interviews will be like etc. They will also ask you the which they want for like covering SNR etc. concepts. So make sure you go through all these concepts if you are planning to be in Bajaj. And about Qualcomm will have processor-based questions because they prepare Snapdragon processor. There are questions like RISC, CISC, etc. So make sure to cover those concepts if you are planning to go for Qualcomm. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. Before going to resources, I want to give some general tips. The general tips are whoever they are sitting for core and SDE roles, don't worry, you won't face any problem. I'm also one of those examples who sat for both profiles. Make sure you select application. If you are more inclined towards core, give more applications to core and keep SDE as a backup. If you are more inclined towards SDE, then keep core as backup. And also, while keeping the companies as backup, make sure to know which is like high paying and which is low paying, which is one of the important factors for everyone. Also, for EC and AAA guys, the companies which come for like the companies Texas, Nvidia, Qualcomm, Intel, these companies and Micron, these are actually a product-based companies. So they will surely test the knowledge in their product itself. So if you are preparing for these companies, make sure to prepare based on the product which they manufacture. You need not go through the depth concepts, but basics should be known. And here I have attached the links to digital interview questions. In this, the questions, there are like all topic related questions. So you can cover them, which were very useful for interviews. And these are my interview experiences, which I wrote in GFG. You can go through them to know how the interviews go. And this is a drive in which I have added some EC triplet preparation related documents and also some other guys' interview experiences. All the best for placements, and don't forget to give party after your placement. And any questions? Is anyone here?
I think there are no questions.
Okay. You can contact us at any time. I have mentioned the contacts as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vamsi Bhaiya, for joining, providing valuable insight. Now we have Advait Bhaiya for product role. Advait Bhaiya,
Hey, yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
yeah, you can start.
Cool. Thanks, Naman. I'll just introduce myself before we go ahead. So I'm Advait. You would have probably known me from CNA or Technique or some other activities during college. I'm not from the AAA department, but I have worked with a lot of startups building products 0 to 1 and with non-profits, mostly in RNA roles and I currently work with Media.net, a contextual advertising company. I work with their MLOps team. So we usually deal with proprietary optimization algorithms for the programmatic advertising division. More on that later, and let's start right away. Next slide. Cool. So although this is meant for product, we'll cover a variety of roles for which will have the same level and type of preparation needed. So just wanted to split out all the roles, but these are the roles in general you'll be covering in this particular part of this presentation. Next slide. Although we yeah, so we call these non-tech, right? So I don't think it's non-tech because most of the time you'll be working with the tech teams to get things implemented. And it's very important that you have at least a basic understanding of tech and you'll probably be dealing with data. So mostly product and consulting roles are data driven roles at this point of time. And it's important that you understand how data flows through your entire system. Right. Uh, let's go to the next slide. Cool. Naman, should I take the questions right now or at the end?
Uh, at the end.
Okay, cool. So, what is expected from you as a product manager slash product analyst slash consultant or business associate? So, first and basic, you need to be able to deal with data. That means you need to be able to fetch data, you need to be able to manipulate that, and you need to be apply that, you need to be implement that, into something related to the business. You need to be able to understand the user needs and pain points, right? So you should be identifying needs, mostly the challenges of your target users. You'll be working a lot on analysis and RNA, specifically with the market demand and market trends. And also, you'll be expected to work close to the business goals and business metric. That means you'll be maximizing ROI or whatever North Star your company is looking at. And last but not least, you'll be working with a lot of teams. So you'll be working with engineering, marketing, sales, and mostly you'll have a lot of presentations. So that's mostly it about how these roles would look like. And this also means that you will be the sole owner of what you work with, right? So even if you're working with just a small part of a data pipeline, you will be completely responsible for what you analyze and what you recommend to your teams. So you should have strong sense of ownership and accountability. Let's go to the next slide. So first and foremost, let's start with how you want to make your product slash consulting resume. First thing is that all your resumes will undergo a basic screening, and therefore the first criteria would be a good CGPA or CPI. Anything above 7.5 is good, and anything above 8 is best. It's always advised to have at least one internship, either in a data-driven role or a product or consulting role, strategy, founder's office. Any of these things could work. It's just important that you need to have contributed to the company or whatever project you're working on. So whatever work, even if that's a very small company or a startup or a very early stage basic work, there should be some kind of impact, and that's what you need to show in your resume. And when it comes to projects, of course, in the same thing, you need to have projects with real world significance. So an example, if I want to give, is entirety. Most of the entirety PSs are have real world impact, and there'll be a lot to speak about that in your interviews. We'll come to that a bit later, but it's important for you to have projects, and at least 2 to 3. If you have worked in tech and you're switching to product, it's okay to list tech projects in your resume, simply because product roles usually work with tech teams. And if you have tech projects, it shows the HR that you are proficient in both tech and not tech and can deal without any hassle. Also, other spikes in your resume would be POR, social engagements, and other extracurriculars. So if you have, hey, participate in sports or something, if you take, a lot of engagement in dance or any other cultural activities, right? Just make sure that you mention it, because they would probably prefer people who are mostly involved in social engagements, to be honest. So these are spikes that your resume should have at least 3 out of 4 listed. Also, atypical to your tech resumes, right? Usually you have a link to your GitHub profile in your tech resume. But hey, if you're going for a product role or something, make sure you include a link to your case portfolio. Basically, just if you're participating in a lot of case studies or something, just accumulate them in a single folder, and you can just put that in a dry folder and just share it instead of your GitHub profile. Uh, this is like proof of your work, and that will always stand out. Next slide. Let's move to the, yeah, cool. So usually the selection process would include at least three or more of these. There's almost always an online assessment which tests your aptitude and data analytics skills. Sometimes they will be followed by case studies, or you will start with a case study. In fact, this could be a product teardown, a market analysis, or market research case studies, or something along the lines of product design and improvement. Once you are shortlisted, there will be two or more rounds of interviews. Usually, one of these rounds is particularly based on your CV. So we'll talk more about that later. And there are tech-based and case interviews depending on your role. So if you're going to be shortlisted in a tech-intensive company, you will have a tech-based case study interview, or multiple rounds of basic tech interviews, and oftentimes it's followed by a behavioral and HR round. So we'll talk more about that. So these are the rounds that you will be probably dealing with. Most of the times, compared to tech, I would say these interviews are much chill. So कोई डरने का बात नहीं होता, and always communication is key. So your end result, right, that will depend on how you communicate with your interviewer and how you approach things. Uh, let's talk about the assessments first. Next slide. So as I mentioned, there are mostly three types of assessments that you get. So one is mostly on aptitude, the second is mostly on SQL and data analysis, and the third is often a case study. In the online assessments, the aptitude assessments in particular, let's go to that first. And oftentimes you'll be dealing with CAD level aptitude questions. So I've listed the exact same thing here. So there's QA, there is DILR, and verbal ability and comprehension type questions. These are mostly the case. And sometimes you can expect puzzles. And when I mean puzzles, the one you see in GFG 100 puzzles, that's more than enough, I would say. And of course, practice is key, because what happens is you get 60 questions in 60 minutes. So basically, you get like about 40 to 80 seconds per question, mostly. So it's always better to practice, in your free time. And oftentimes you get the same aptitude questions if you're preparing for a tech role also. So make sure that you practice regularly, and you'll be good to go. These are some of the sources you can practice from. So if you want to practice puzzles, use GFG. Then India Bix, how to become face prep. These are good sources to do live mocks. Then there are CAT books which are published by McGraw Hill. There is Arun Sharma's book, and there's also a QA book by R.S. Agarwal. You can check that out. I would suggest not to like do all the questions. Maybe just do the like just do 5 questions per section and see if it's working for you. If you feel that's good enough, you can just advance to the next section. And I would say this is a continuous process. So don't think you let's do exact just this during the whole time. So probably just spend like around 20 minutes per day for aptitude practice, and that will speed and things up. And in case if you have a lot of time, I don't think you will have, but if you have a lot of time, just try doing these CAT mocks or inside IIM mocks. Just do this, but not a necessity. You'll be good to go if even if you do questions from India Bix. So next slide. So then of course, when it comes to slide decks, right, there are certain checklist items which you need to look at. So major thing is if you are able to find an actual problem, and you should be able to redefine that problem according to how you solve it, because most of the times a solve problem will have a root cause. No? So it's important that you identify that root cause, and you redefine the PS. Once you have redefined the PS, you'll be mostly looking at user personas and their pain points, their goals. And once you have all the considerations in hand, you'll be able to come up with a solution, and just make sure that your solution is addressing what exactly is defined in the problem statement. So again, I think I think due to a lack of time, we'll just move to the next slide. But I think you get the gist, and you can probably I think you'll get the slides now. So just go through these once again. Well, I think someone removed me from the meeting. Who that is by not clear. Yeah. So let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So this is interviews. So there are often 5 to 6 types of questions which are often asked. Okay. So one is mostly what your favorite product is. Then oftentimes the first round of interview will have guesstimates. If you're familiar with guesstimates, that's good. If you are not, basically that's educated guess to say. So you make certain assumptions and you calculate what is being asked to estimate. Okay. Then there is a framework called circles, which often accounts for product design cases and product improvement cases. Then we have root cause analysis cases where you'll be asked to dive deep. So basically a top down approach, where sorry, bottom up approach, where you list down the probable causes and just narrow down and you find the root cause of a problem. Then often in the final rounds you'll be asked to deal with product strategy and product metrics cases. Metrics cases may you will be looking at things like acquisition, adoption, engagement, retention, and revenue. Mostly. So I think this covers like all the types of cases. I would suggest these are clickable links, so you'll be able to look into how each case should be approached specifically. And in case you're preparing for consulting roles, I would suggest you to cover profitability or market entry cases from IIT or IIM casebooks. A better one would be IIM Ahmedabad's casebook. That's a good one to start with. So just make sure that you cover a couple cases. And as always, I say practice is key. So just make sure that you practice often, and I think you'll be good to go. Next slide. Now, these are some books that you can prepare from. I would suggest to look into Louis C. Lynn's case books, preferably number 2 and 3. These have live cases, so they're case transcripts. And in case you go for mock interview or something, it's always better to just go through that, right? And just do at least 50 to 60 cases, I would say. Anything above 100 is better. But the idea is you should be able to have an idea to just how to approach each type of case and how to uh, answer the question on spot, right? You can't dive into tangents. You should be able to stick to what is asked. So just do mock practices and just go with these case books. There's also a Google sheet from Louis Lynn that has around 20,000 questions. So there's like questions of all kinds, and you can find a lot of questions there. Next slide. These are the links of these question banks. Go through 2 and 3 best case. And hey, if you have time, just go through the HR questions, because I've seen that most of the times people don't qualify after the HR round, they lose in that round. So it's always better to practice HR questions before, and I think this applies for tech roles as well. So make sure that you go through normal behavioral questions for the HR round. Next slide. Now, how to master your interviews. Of course, we discussed the resume, right? So the resume is the single source of truth. That means you should be able to explain everything in your resume as simple as you can. So make sure that you write in your resume, what you write in resume is true and honest. And you would be expected to explain every point in detail. So just be thorough with that. And second thing is that just make sure that you have clear expectations about what you want to share with the interview. So if so most times, let's give an example probably. So let's say if you have an internship experience and you implemented a project, so they will probably ask how we can adapt this to their particular use case. So it's always better to just state out. Let's say if the project doesn't apply to their industry, just say ki, hey, this won't apply because of XYZ reasons. It's better not to do guesswork, and you will fail in that regard. And also practice is key. Make sure that you do sufficient mock interviews. Don't do it on your own, because just reading cases and doing it on your own, that won't help you in any manner. Just make sure that you find at least 2 to 3 people that you can practice with, and you'd be good to go if you practice at least thrice or 4 times a day, 4 times a week. So that would account to almost 100 plus cases in total by the time we have your interviews. And let's go to what you want to look at during the interview. These are again general tips. Next slide. So during the interview, you're mostly given a case study. And the first, before you start any case study, just make sure that you have clarified everything, at least 75% of it. Basically, you should be able to have necessary information. Say if you don't have, so let's say there might be some general things that you may probably won't know, but you can always ask the interviewer, just state things clear, right? And make sure that you have done this once you have the problem statement in hand. And whenever you make an assumption, make sure that you state it clearly, because the interviewer might be on another side, and just they won't probably understand what you are looking at. Make sure you state your assumptions as clearly as you can, and I think that will help you. And always think aloud. So let's say if you are just thinking for at least 2 to 3 minutes and then saying something, the interviewer will get uninterested. So make sure that you think and speak at the same time. uh, you can share with the interviewer what your thought process. If you are going off to tangents, the interviewer will help you. They will say, hey, don't go to that, uh, and they will actually help you eliminate some cases, right? So that is one thing. And once you have all the ambiguities clarified, you have a structure ready, communicate that with the interviewer, because they'll be able to help you, again, if you're going to tangents. And you can, best case, just complete the interview as early as possible. So again, a reason for this is that most case interviews won't last for more than 20 minutes. And often a single round can have up to 2 case studies. So if you have you're taking more than 20 to 30, 20 minutes time, you won't have the second case study, and that means they have to make a decision based on that one limited case study. So make sure that you do things on time, because time is key. And probably one thing that will help you here is to prioritize things, right? So you don't need to state out everything, you just need to prioritize. So once you have things ready, just prioritize things and just narrow things down. That will help you save a lot of this time. And mostly at the end of every case, right, make sure that you have the measurables or the metrics stated out. So product roles are mostly quantitative, which means you verify each and everything with data and data-based evidence. So you should have all the case studies ending with metrics. Next slide. These are other things just haven't covered in the interview. One is puzzles, which you will probably get in PM interviews. Most of these come from or are based off the puzzles on Geek for Geeks. So just go through that. If you go for SQL, I believe I did not cover this before, but there will be SQL based questions interview. You'll be mostly given queries to solve. either during the assessment or during your interview. Okay, so just make sure that you have an in-depth understanding of SQL, mostly the querying part. There are 50 problems on lead code and another 45 on interview bit. These patterns will repeat, so just make sure that you cover these. And finally, there should be, so you should have a basic understanding of tech concepts, right? So make sure that you know what works inside of APIs, basic computing and networks, the internet, how search works and all. So make sure you cover these basic tech concepts. You can click on these links, you'll get the slides later. Just make sure I've gone through this, and I think that is it. And finally, so everything we have covered now. I think the slides have been too long, but I had to list out everything. But if you are short of time, you can refer to the last slide of the section. The next slide. So everything we have covered until now is listed here. Just make sure that you just follow each and everything, and I think you're good to go. Regarding companies that come for product roles, there would be approximately less than 50 companies. So in case you're purely looking at product roles, you won't exhaust the limit. So and most interviews are communication based interviews. You won't be expected to have an understanding of DSA or anything of those sorts, but you should be able to understand technology, and you should be able to have a good understanding of data. So you should have a basic understanding of SQL and Excel. Python may come in some interviews. So, for example, I work in media audit, and MNET had Python questions in the online assessment. So it might come, but most of these are very basic, and you should be able to look at these. Just if you have completed summer analytics during your first year, then you're good to go. And finally, just make sure that you're confident enough, because you have a limited amount of time and you need to be able to convince the interviewer that you are the best candidate. So communicate clearly, set your expectations right, and that is it. In case you have questions, let's go through that. Anyone has any questions? Hey Himanshu, hello. Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Himanshu, you're audible.
Hello, Bia, how are you?
I'm doing well, but just what's it out? Hello.
Someone removed me also.
अरे यार. चलो so hey, so doubt क्या है तेरा?
Doubt is that, yeah, what is the level of questions that will be asked in the aptitude rounds? That CAT के कौन से level questions आने वाले हैं?
अरे
क्योंकि
CAT questions नहीं आएगा, so it will be basic questions only. So the things have you given bit set?
I didn't appear for bit set.
No worries, but so these are basic questions, mostly probability and statistics. These will account for almost 40% of the QA questions. Then DILR is what it is, it's literally what it means. Basically, you will be given charts and tabular data, and you'll need to be able to like find information from there. So that's DILR. Verbal ability is mostly they come with reading comprehensions. You just fill in the blanks, arrange sentences in the correct order. Just look for CAT mocks. You'll find these questions. This will be very very simple. So no need to just spend a lot of time on this. Inkiabix is a good source if you have limited time, right? So just make sure that you go through this. Okay. To Ishan's query, no, there won't be separate rounds possibly, but there are multiple rounds which can have one or more of these. So let's say you had a guesstimate in your first round, you might have a guesstimate in the next round as well. It's not like every interview will have the same pattern. It depends completely on your interview and the time you take to answer the question. So if you give your interview in 20 minutes, that's good and better. Then you'll be having a second case or a guesstimate. That usually happens. So that is how it is. Any other questions?
I think there are no more questions.
Cool then.
Thank you, Bhaiya, for joining. And this is the now we have done with the talk. And thank you everyone for joining us. We will mail the PDF on the email.